My name is Emily, I'm 31 years old and live in Portland, Oregon. I'm the lead user experience designer at a medical software company. The job is demanding, full of details and deadlines, but I love it, and for a while I truly believed my life was finally on track. Because beside me was Scott, my boyfriend turned fiancé of nearly 6 years. We met at a launch party for a mutual friend's new office. He was an electrical engineer, 2 years older than me, quiet, with eyes that always looked like they were reading the room. We started talking while standing next to the dessert table, both sighing because the blue macarons were all gone. It's funny now, thinking how a whole life together began over a missing cookie. Everything unfolded naturally. We dated, moved in together after nearly 2 years, and by year 3 we adopted Luna, our gray-furred cat with suspicious eyes who never left my side. Scott wasn't the romantic type or great with words, but he always listened. He remembered I preferred oat milk over almond. And he was the one handing me tissues whenever movies got emotional. Last summer on a hike up Mount Tabor, our weekend ritual, he pulled a small brown box from his jacket, hands trembling. "Do you want to keep walking this road with me? Forever?" he asked, voice hoarse from the wind. I nodded before he even finished. My eyes stung. My smile froze from joy. No big crowd. No secret photographer. Just me. Him. And the wind weaving through pine trees. And I thought, this is all I've ever wanted. We decided on a September wedding, a cozy outdoor ceremony with under 80 guests. Not a magazine spread, but a day that felt true to us. Though Scott always said, "You decide," I knew I was the more excited one. I dove into Pinterest, created countless mood boards for dresses, flowers, table settings. I booked the planner, tasted cake samples, picked songs, and handled almost everything myself. Scott would nod, smile, or say, "Sounds good." I didn't resent it, truly. I told myself this was normal. Most guys didn't care if the wedding flowers had eucalyptus leaves or not. That's what I kept telling myself. Every night after work, I'd sit on the couch with Luna, scrolling wedding dresses or listening to playlists that made me tear up. Scott would sit at his desk nearby, absorbed in blueprints or emails. We shared space, but I began to feel the rhythm shifting. Still, I ignored it. We'd made it through layoffs, my grandmother's funeral, and his work stress when a major project stalled. A wedding couldn't possibly shake us. I trusted our relationship, I trusted Scott, I trusted us. What I didn't see coming, what kept me up countless nights afterward, was the creeping doubt that the wedding wasn't what scared me, but the haunting question. Did the man I love actually want to marry me, or was he just silently stepping back as I planned it all? I began noticing the changes in early April, just as Portland's rainy season ended. At first it was small. Scott stopped asking how my day went, didn't show interest in wedding updates. When I showed him our final invitation proof, he just raised an eyebrow and said, "Looks fine." No smile, no usual nod. I reassured myself, maybe he was just tired. He'd been talking about a big new resort electrical project in Bend. Not his to manage, but they kept looping him in since he had the most experience. So when he started coming home late, I didn't think much of it. "Who were you with?" I asked one night as the clock hit 10:37 and he walked in, cigarette smoke clinging to his jacket. He doesn't smoke, but Paul, his coworker and friend, does. "Paul and a few folks from the team," he said casually, like I'd asked about the weather. "We hit a bar on Fremont, there was a good game on." I gave a faint smile. "I thought we were going to go over the guest list tonight." He shrugged, kicked off his shoes and headed for the shower. The conversation faded into steam and running water. Weeks passed. The same pattern repeated. I'd text him flower options. He'd reply 3 hours later with "up to you." I'd suggest a spot for engagement photos. He'd leave the message unread. One Friday I came home early. I picked up lasagna from his favorite place and a deep red wine he adored. Lit candles. Played soft jazz. The music we used to listen to when we first moved in. He didn't show up, no text, no call. I ate alone, in silence. Luna curled at my feet, tail limp, as if tired of the long absences too. At 10:30 he walked in. I smiled softly as if forgiveness was just a blink away. But he scanned the table and frowned. "What's going on?" he asked, exhausted. "Nothing," I said. "I just thought tonight would be a good time to talk guest lists." He said nothing, set down his keys, shrugged off his jacket, and muttered something I can still recite word for word. "Don't you think you're overdoing it? It's just a wedding, not a coronation." I stood, calm, deliberate, weighing every step between anger and heartbreak. I cleared the table. Didn't say another word. That night he was asleep before I came to bed. The next morning I asked, "Scott, is something wrong?" He said flatly, "No, I'm just busy. I'm not paranoid. But women know. Our intuition whispers when something's off. And my heart, once so at peace in this love, now clenched every time his phone lit up. I used to be the one he clung to when exhausted. Now he clung to his phone. I tried not to check, not to snoop, not to become that kind of woman I swore I'd never be. But the cracks in my trust had started to show. And the thing that hurt most wasn't even the coldness. It was knowing he no longer saw me as someone worth sharing his thoughts with. I still remember that night, the soft chill of late April and the golden glow at the Italian restaurant near the Willamette River. I'd booked the table a week in advance, chosen the seat by the window for its perfect view, wore the plum-colored dress he once said made him want to propose again. I wanted to save something, or at least see if there was something left to save. I'd arrived 15 minutes late. No apology, just a stiff smile and a kiss on my forehead. He smelled of cologne and beer. I knew he'd been somewhere else, but I didn't ask. Not because I didn't care, because I was scared of the answer. We ordered the usual. I picked mushroom ravioli, he got rare steak, the dish he used to rave about. That night he barely touched it. One hand cut at his plate, the other flipped his phone face down every time I glanced over. I tried to pull him into conversation. About the dress fitting next week, the meeting with the wedding planner. Every reply was clipped like I was interrogating him, not sharing a future. "Scott, what's going on?" I finally asked. He looked up, and for the first time those eyes weren't familiar. No warmth. No trace of the man who once held me under a storm and whispered, "I choose you. Always." He put his fork down, arms crossed, then said, slow and quiet, "Have you ever thought maybe we're rushing into this?" Those words hit like a slap. "What do you mean?" I asked, voice shaking. "And I mean, it's not that I don't love you. But maybe I'm not ready for all of this. The wedding, the commitment, forever." I stared at him, speechless. He went on, like he'd rehearsed this. "Paul's right. Marriage changes everything. His wife was perfect, then suddenly, it all shattered. I don't want that." "You're comparing me to Paul's ex-wife?" "No, it's not that. It's just, lately I feel overwhelmed. You're planning everything. You have spreadsheets for flower choices, and me? I just want it to be simpler, less pressure. You said I could handle those parts. I know, and I thought I was okay with that. But now, I'm not sure. Not sure. 2 words. More painful than any rejection." I sat still, swallowing tears, trying to look composed under flickering candlelight. We didn't finish dinner. My ravioli went cold. His steak remained untouched. I asked for the check. He didn't argue. On the way home, silence filled the car. Not even the radio could mask the growing distance between two people who once dreamed of a house, a garden, and the sound of children laughing. Back at the apartment, I changed. He sat on the couch, staring at a muted TV. I heard him sigh. Then he stood, grabbed a pillow and blanket, said nothing, and walked into the office. That night, for the first time in 6 years, we slept in separate rooms. No goodnight. No familiar touch. Just 2 strangers sharing the same apartment, separated by a nameless abyss. I lay in bed, gently stroking Luna's fur, our cat, always faithfully curled beside me, and thought, if this is the moment everything starts to end, then it ends more quietly than I ever imagined. The next morning, Scott left early for work without leaving a note. I woke up, alone, in a cold, heavy bed. Luna stayed curled in the corner, not even bothering to greet me. I brewed a cup of coffee but didn't drink it. The familiar aroma made my throat tighten. I poured it down the sink and stood by the window for almost 10 minutes, trying not to think too much about the night before. I texted Lena, my best friend since college, now a nurse at Providence Hospital. She called right after her shift, voice calm as always. Sounds like you need a little escape, Target and coffee, the ultimate combo for disappointment rehab. I smiled, reluctantly agreeing. We met at the Orange Spoon Cafe, the one with mocha drinks Lena loved so much the baristas knew her name. I recounted the night before, trying to keep my voice steady, but the more I talked, the tighter my throat got. Lena placed her hand over mine and gave it a gentle squeeze. I think you're trying to save something only you still believe in. I didn't know what to say. We left the cafe and wandered through the shopping plaza. I'd bought a few new throw pillows. Pointless. And a fancy shampoo bottle just to comfort myself. As I stood in the parking lot loading the trunk with my scattered purchases, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Hey Emily, it's Ben. I work with Scott. We met at the Christmas party last year. Sorry if this is out of line, but I think you should know something. I frowned. Ben was a young engineer who'd joined Scott's firm a few months ago. I called him. His voice was hesitant. Awkward at first, but eventually he spoke. Turned out that afternoon, Scott's engineering team met up at a bar near the construction site by the Columbia River. They had a few beers, some small talk. Then the topic turned to weddings. Scott, he got teased a bit about becoming a married man, Ben said. Then Paul, you probably know who that is, joked. Let's hope she can at least cook, or you're screwed. I froze. I'd heard enough about Paul already. And Scott. He said. Ben hesitated. He laughed and said if she were hotter maybe I'd be more excited about the wedding. I stood still. The cold wind cut across my shoulders, but I didn't feel it. Only the sting in my chest. Ben continued, his voice softer now. Everyone went quiet for a few seconds. Some laughed, but you could tell some were uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say. But I thought you should know. I thanked him, hung up and collapsed into the driver's seat, phone still clutched tightly in my hand. Tears streamed down before I could stop them. Not because it was a dumb joke, but because it came from the man I had once trusted completely. I had fallen for Scott when I was wearing ripped jeans and a college hoodie, hair messy and no makeup. He said my smile made the whole party feel calmer. And now, after 5 years together, countless nights side by side, and a heartfelt proposal, the thing holding him back was how I looked. I sat in the car for nearly 40 minutes. Every sound blurred, except the pounding of my heart in my ears. When I got back to the apartment, Scott was sprawled on the couch, remote in hand. He glanced at me. Buy a lot of stuff? I didn't answer. I walked past him, took my bags into the bedroom, called Luna over, and locked the door. For the first time since we moved in together, I locked it from the inside. No knocking. No apology. I slid down to the floor, back against the bed, and realized something painful. I no longer felt like his fiancé. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the clatter of pans in the kitchen. Some part of me already knew what was waiting outside that door. I stepped out, face unwashed, heart still cracked. Scott stood with his back to me, in an old t-shirt and sweatpants frying bacon. Beside him, scrambled eggs, toast, and a glass of orange juice. He turned when he heard me. Or forced to smile. Voice barely above a whisper. Made you breakfast. Can we call a truce? I crossed my arms, eyes fixed on the plate like it was déjà vu. This wasn't the first time Scott used breakfast to apologize. But this time felt different. I got a call last night, I said, not breaking eye contact. From Ben. You remember Ben, right? Scott froze. The way he set the pan down, the break in his breath, everything confirmed what I already knew. He'll told me what happened at the bar. Silence. Just the drip of the coffee maker. You said something about how I look in front of everyone. Scott sat down, head in his hands. Emily, I was drunk. Paul kept pushing. Everyone was laughing. I didn't mean it, or didn't care. He looked up, eyes red. I'm sorry, I swear, I shouldn't have said that. I felt cornered. Paul makes me feel like I'm not man enough if I don't fight back. I scoffed. So you made me the punchline? No, that's not what I was drunk and stupid. You know I didn't mean it. The problem, Scott, is that even if you didn't mean it, I still heard every word. He was silent. I looked around the kitchen we once picked out together. Every object, every drawer, had a memory. And now they all felt like ghosts. I turned, grabbed my bag. I didn't say another word. Scott followed me. Where are you going? To Ethan's? Ethan? My brother, I said. The one who told me if I ever got hurt he'd be the first one at my door. You're leaving? Over one dumb joke? I stopped cold. Not over one joke. Over all the times you made me feel like I wasn't enough. The half-hearted nods, the late nights. The way I've been trying to save this relationship alone. He opened his mouth, but I was already gone. Luna jumped on the suitcase like she wanted to come with me. I stroked her back and whispered, I'll be back. I drove to Ethan's house, 20 minutes from downtown Portland. Rain started falling, soft drops tapping the windshield like all the tears I'd held in. He opened the door the moment I knocked. Before he could speak, I wrapped my arms around him. What happened? He asked, voice full of concern. I just need a place to breathe. He didn't ask further. He just grabbed the spare key, made me a hot cup of peppermint tea, and stuffed a few cookies into my hand. That night, I lay on the old bed I used to joke felt like a wooden board every time I visited. But that night, it was the warmest place I knew. I hugged the pillow, stared at the ceiling, and felt hollow. No tears, no anger. Just one question echoing in my mind. If this is the person I'm supposed to spend my life with, why do I feel so alone? I was no longer the heroine of my own story. Just a girl clinging to a fading image, while the person beside her had already let go. I stayed at Ethan's for 3 days. 3 long nights filled with restless sleep and unanswered questions. Each morning I had to remind myself it was real, that I wouldn't wake up to find Scott making breakfast like nothing had happened. On the 4th morning, as I was sipping coffee with my brother, my phone vibrated. The screen showed a name I didn't expect to see. Valerie. Scott's mom. She and I had always had a good relationship. Unlike my biological mother, who had gone through 3 divorces and lived over 1,000 miles away in Tampa, Valerie was the mother I wished I'd had. Composed, thoughtful, always gracious. She once told me I was one of the best things to happen to this family. I hesitated for a few seconds, then picked up. Emily? Her voice trembled. Can you meet me? There's something I think you need to know. I paused, then agreed. She asked to meet at a small cafe near Washington Park, a place she used to take me for walks during family picnics. When I arrived, she was already seated by the window. Not her usual elegant self. Today she wore an old cardigan, no makeup, her hair slightly messy, eyes dark with fatigue. She looked exhausted. I sat down and got straight to the point. What happened, Valerie? She stared at me for a long time, weighing every word. Scott called me on Sunday. He was a mess. I said nothing, just tightened my grip on the warm coffee cup. My son didn't betray you the way you think, she said gently. But there's something else I believe you need to hear. From me. Not from anyone else. I stayed silent though my chest was tightening. Recently, there's been a new girl at Scott's company. Her name's Alana. She's a new project coordinator and works closely with him. He mentioned her a few times and I didn't think much of it until this weekend. Valerie paused, exhaled slowly. Scott confessed he's developed feelings. Nothing happened between them, at least, that's what he says. No physical boundary was crossed, but there's a connection, and that connection made him question everything. I froze. My coffee had gone cold, but I held on to it like it was the last warm thing left. Why are you telling me this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Because I've been in your shoes, Valerie replied. Before Scott's father left me for a coworker in Arizona, he once said, she's just easier to talk to, that's all. And I brushed it off. I thought it was harmless. But Emily, sometimes just talking is exactly where the cracks begin. Her eyes welled with tears. I can't let you walk into a marriage with someone who doesn't even know where he stands. I love you, Emily, like a daughter, and I can't watch you live through the same heartbreak I once did. I bit my lip. Inside me, the last shards of hope were shattering. I had wanted to believe Scott was just stressed, just temporarily distant. But now I understood. It wasn't random distance. It was a deliberate gap, formed by a heart slowly drifting elsewhere. Too. Thank you for being honest. You didn't owe me that, but you gave it, and I'm grateful. Valerie rose too, embracing me tightly. No matter what happens, you'll always be part of this family. Please don't forget that. I nodded and walked out of the cafe. The cool May wind stung my cheeks, but I didn't hide my tears. I walked slowly, dragging each step like I was trying to delay returning to the truth waiting in the apartment I used to call home. My phone buzzed. A message from Scott. If my mom told you anything, please remember. I love you. I was scared and I messed up. I can't excuse it, but I don't want to lose you. I turned off the screen. For the first time I felt something clear in my heart. Love is never enough if someone won't be honest. With themselves or with the person they promised forever to. I thought long and hard before texting Alana. Part of me wanted to disappear quietly, let time blur everything. But the other part, the stronger part still gasping for air, needed clarity. I couldn't live in half-truths, evasive glances, and vague words anymore. I found her number in the office group chat from Scott's birthday a few months ago. My message was simple. Hi Alana, this is Emily, Scott's fiancé. If possible, I'd like to meet in person. I don't blame you. I just want to understand the truth. A few minutes later she replied, I think we should meet. I have a few things I need to say too. Tomorrow morning, Luna Bean Cafe, 9 a.m.? I nodded to myself. Luna Bean, what an ironic name. Because my cat Luna was now the only creature I still fully trusted. The next morning I arrived early. The cafe was small but cozy, sunlight pouring through large windows, reflecting off wooden tables and hanging plants. I picked a corner seat and ordered an espresso that didn't even taste bitter, maybe because my heart already was. Alana walked in at 8:59. She was nothing like I imagined. No tight dress, no stilettos, no bold lipstick like the other woman in movies. She wore jeans, a beige sweater, her hair tied back, a delicate but tired face. Thanks for coming, I said as she sat. No, I should be the one thanking you for this chance, she replied, locking eyes with me. I know what's going on between you and Scott, and I don't want to be misunderstood. I said nothing, just gave a small nod. Alana took a deep breath and continued. Scott is a good man. He helped me a lot when I first joined the company. We worked on a few projects, exchanged some messages outside work. But I swear, nothing ever crossed a line. I never flirted with him. Never made a move or hinted at anything. I studied her face. Every gesture felt sincere, no defensiveness, no evasion. Actually, she added, I've been with my boyfriend Khalid for over 2 years. He came to the company event in March. Maybe you don't remember. There were a lot of people. My cheeks flushed. I did vaguely remember a tall man holding Alana's hand, but I'd been too busy entertaining Scott's guests to notice. So, what about Scott? I asked, my voice low as if I feared hearing the answer. Alana bowed her head. I think he's going through a rough patch. He's becoming easily distracted. Sometimes he slips up. Sometimes he asks me very personal questions, not crossing the line but enough to make me feel strange. Did you respond? I kept my distance. I even told Paul directly. He's the type who constantly jokes, saying really biting things about marriage. Once he told Scott, before getting married, you should try every possibility. Then you'll see you chose wrong. My eyes widened. My heart felt crushed again. Paul always acts like a close friend, she continued, but I think he just enjoys the feeling of controlling others. He planted doubts in Scott's mind, about marriage, about commitment, about the idea that loving one person for a lifetime is naive. Alana paused, her voice lower. I don't know what Scott feels for me, but if there's anything, it's from him, not from me. I stayed silent. Not angry, not jealous, just a deep sadness spreading in my heart. Because now I understood. What broke my relationship wasn't another woman, it was Scott's fear. The fear of becoming like his father, of repeating mistakes, of not loving deeply enough to last a lifetime. And to Paul, the shadow of toxicity was simply the wind that stirred the long smoldering fire in Scott's heart. When Alana stood up, she said something I'll remember for a long time. You're a strong woman, Emily. Don't let anyone, even someone who once loved you, make you doubt that. I sat alone in the cafe for another half hour, my espresso cold but my mind burning as if I'd just walked through a storm. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew, for the first time in weeks, I felt like I'd regained control of my own story. 3 days after meeting Alana, I decided I wouldn't wait another second. I texted Karina, Scott's younger sister, who had called to check on me several times since things started to fall apart. Though she was Scott's sibling, Karina had never blindly taken his side. She was straightforward, fair, and perhaps the only person in Scott's family I still trusted to be a bridge. Karina, I want to arrange a meeting. You, your mom, Scott, Paul, and me, not to argue, but to stop avoiding things. Karina called back immediately. You pick the time and place, I'll handle the rest. We met at Karina's small apartment in the Pearl District, the place where a surprise birthday party had been thrown for me 2 years ago. That day, Scott had knelt amid friends and family, saying, I can't imagine a life without you. Now thinking back, those words felt like an old film, shaky and blurred. I arrived early. Karina had set a simple table, some pasta boxes from a nearby Italian restaurant, mixed salad and juice. Valerie arrived first, hugging me tightly like a true mother. Paul came second, 10 minutes late, still wearing that smug smile as if everything was under control. And finally, Scott walked in. He looked at me, then quickly looked down. We sat around the table, no one touched the food. Valerie spoke first. We all know why we're here, and none of us will leave this room until everything is clear. AskManager.org+7 Lighthouse Writers Workshop +7 Tell us something, your story matters +7. I looked straight at Paul. I know what you said to Scott. About freedom, about being tied down, about Alana. Paul raised an eyebrow, shook his head. I was just joking, everyone jokes, it's guy talk. Karina's voice sharpened. You weren't joking, you were sabotaging. The atmosphere grew heavy. Scott placed his hand on the table, trembling slightly. Enough, he said softly. Emily deserves to hear the whole truth. It's all my fault. I looked up, Scott continued, his voice steady but eyes reddened. I was weak. I let Paul plant fears in my mind that I should have shared with you, instead of hiding them. I didn't betray you physically, but I wasn't emotionally honest. And I'm no longer sure if I can be the husband you expect. I didn't cry. Not this time. I just asked, and where did that come from? From Alana? Scott shook his head. No. From myself. From the shadow of my father. The man who once said he loved my mom, then left with another woman. I'm afraid I'll become like him. Valerie clenched her hands. Karina sat up straight. I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. I let that fear control me. I let Paul, who doesn't believe in lasting love, be my compass instead of sitting down with the woman who's been by my side for 5 years. I turned to Paul. Who do you think you are to have the right to sow doubt in others' hearts? Paul sneered. Hey, I was just helping him stay alert. Not everyone is born to marry early and spend life counting bills. And you think that's what being a friend is? Karina gritted her teeth. Dragging someone down with you just because you don't believe anyone can be happier than you? Valerie stood up, lightly tapping the table. I didn't raise my son to be a man who uses his girlfriend as a shield for his fears. Scott bowed his head. Mom, I'm sorry. Honeycomb +8. Tell us something. Your story matters +8. Joelle Han +8. I sighed. I don't need more apologies, Scott. I need clarity. He nodded, his voice as soft as the wind. I'm not sure I'm right for you anymore. I love you. But maybe love isn't enough if I can't overcome myself. I pressed my lips together. Inside me, every question had been answered. I stood up, looking at each person in the room. Then, I said slowly, we won't be getting married. No one stopped me. No one objected. Just a silence that pierced to the bone. I turned to Valerie. Thank you for always treating me like a daughter. She stepped forward to hug me. You're my daughter whether you marry Scott or not. Irina walked out with me. As I reached for the doorknob, Scott called out, Emily. I turned back, our eyes meeting one last time. He said nothing more, and I didn't need to hear anything else. 3 days after the fateful meeting at Karena's house, Scott moved out of the apartment we had shared for nearly 5 years. He chose it Tuesday morning, when I was at work, to avoid another painful goodbye. He left the keys on the kitchen counter, along with a short note. I know I don't deserve it, but I still hope you'll live a truly strong life, just as you are. S. I read the message upon returning home after a long shift. In the silent kitchen with lingering cold air, Luna, my cat, curled up on the sofa, as if she too felt the newly opened void. I began packing. The ceramic mugs we had bought at the weekend market, the collection of glass cups printed with maps of cities we had visited, the wall map with red pins representing the honeymoon destinations now cancelled. Each item suddenly became evidence, a collection of almost happened moments. There were nights I sat alone in the living room, under dim lights, with the Wedding Vibes playlist still on my Spotify account. I intended to delete it but couldn't bring myself to. There's a strange pain in facing what you once believed in. Karina and Ethan helped me find a new apartment in South Portland. Smaller, just 1 bedroom, but with a balcony overlooking rows of crimson maple trees every afternoon. Moving in, I began a new life. Alone, without Scott, without the late-night laughter, and without the Friday night debates over pizza or tacos. The room was empty, but my mind was full of questions. How many times did I give in? How often did I stay quiet, thinking love alone could heal everything? How much of myself did I lose, just to hold on to someone who wasn't sure he'd hold on to me? Those questions led me to therapy. One Monday morning, I walked into Dr. Reed's office. A woman in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a voice soft enough to seep through the cracks in my heart. That first session, I just sat still, said a few scattered sentences like, "We just canceled the wedding, he didn't cheat, he just lost direction. I'm okay." But I knew that okay was a lie I'd repeated too many times. And in the weeks that followed, we dug deeper. I told her about all the times Scott said, "Up to you," when I asked for his input on the wedding dress, the menu, or the guest list. I told her about the nights I lay turned away from him, listening to him laugh with Paul in the living room, feeling more and more distant. Dr. Reed asked me one question that left me frozen. "Emily, if you were your own best friend, would you advise yourself to stay in that relationship?" I was silent for a long time. And then I answered, no. That night, I went home, took down the save the date card from the fridge and tore it into tiny pieces. For the first time, I didn't cry. I started to rewrite, not just a new life, but myself. I began morning walks, holding no one's hand. I learned to cook from scratch. Not to please Scott, but because I wanted to enjoy a proper lasagna. I signed up for a Saturday painting class, something I'd postponed for 2 years simply because Scott didn't like the smell of oil paint. One night I opened the old engagement ring box. The diamond still sparkled, not from light but from all the things I had sacrificed to believe in a hollow promise. I hadn't sold it. But I no longer wore it. It was just a reminder. I had loved, I had been wrong, and I had found the strength to walk away. And in that moment I realized, maybe the greatest kind of love isn't loving someone so much that you forget yourself. It's loving yourself enough not to let anyone make you forget your worth. On a quiet Thursday afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Emily, it's Scott. I'm not texting to ask you to come back. I just wanted to say, I've started therapy. Maybe I should have done it a long time ago. If you ever hear anything about me again, I hope it's that I became someone better, someone who stopped running from everything. I stared at the message for a while and didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I knew what Scott was doing now was for him, not for us. I had stopped belonging to that us a long time ago. Emily's story is proof that sometimes an ending isn't a failure, it's a chance to begin again with yourself. When a relationship no longer gives you the love you deserve, letting go isn't weakness, it's courage. True happiness doesn't come from clinging to someone. It comes from holding on to your dignity, your peace, and your self-worth. Emily didn't choose compromise, she chose herself. And that is a quiet, powerful victory. What do you think about Emily's decision? Do you believe she was right to walk away? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about love, family, and healing.